All right, and here we go. Let's go. Let's go. This is Andy Rosas, a special edition of our podcast. We have Curtis in the house with Red X. How you doing, Curtis?
Very good. Thanks for having me, Andy. Always happy
No,
to be on the show.
such a treat to have you, man. And I'm glad we're doing this now because 2024 agents got their butt kicked. Curtis, we're gonna speak it like it is, man. Agents got their butt kicked, and I think a lot of agents are looking into the new year with a negative lens. So on this episode, man, I really want to talk about how amazing 2025 is going to be, and we're not just going to be fluff. Curtis, you're going to come in with some heavy data. I know you just got off an amazing webinar with Keeping Current Matters. It was an amazing webinar that you guys did. So, listeners, you are in for a treat because Curtis is going to blow you away with the numbers of a huge opportunity, especially in Q1 of 2025. We're going to go over that. We're going to go over teams. We're seeing a big shift in team building and also joining a team and creating a team and also how to scale your team. You're going to learn about that and why people are going to teams, even if you've never done one or you've thought about it, because I would say 90% of the people I speak to, Curtis, want to build a team or they want the outcomes of a team. So we're going to learn about what Red X is doing to help out agents with that. So we're super pumped up. And before we get started into it, Curtis, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are, and then we can just go off and into the whole into 2025 and beyond. Let's go.
Happy to. Curtis Fenn, I'm president at RedX, and I've been in the industry for about 2 decades, if you can believe it. If
Wow.
people are just listening without video, I look very young for being in
And
the
you
industry.
sound young too for them. They're all
So,
thinking the same thing.
no, and in 2 decades we've kind of seen it all, right? I mean the highs of early 2000s, and then the recession, and then all through COVID, and we've seen some ups and downs in the industry, but nothing like 2023, 2024, where you had supply and demand both going down at the same time. It's the
Yeah.
craziest thing that we've seen. And even right now, you look back in 2024, and 2024 is going to be the lowest year in home sales since 1995.
Wow. Repeat that again?
So we're going to end the year with the lowest amount of home sales since 1995. Last year was the
Wow.
last year was the lowest year since 1995, but this year is going to be 2024 is even lower than 2023. So
I did
uh,
not know that. Wow.
yeah, so when you talk about agents getting their butt kicked, I go, yeah, there's a lot of agents that struggled because they didn't know how to um, take more of the market share when something is down like this, because they've been kind of riding a 10-year high
Wave.
of
Yeah.
real estate, what we're doing here. And so a lot of people did struggle. Plus, there's just less transactions to go around.
Yeah. That's true. And you hear that a lot. Agents are like, well, that's not how it was last year and the year, and the agents that get stuck in that how things used to be are the agents I think that are just going to quit the business and struggle the most. And the agents that really strap up in 2025, put their nose to the ground and take up this market share as people are leaving, this is an awesome opportunity. Huge opportunity.
Yeah, huge opportunity, and there's always opportunity, and we want to find in and not just a silver lining in what's going on. Real data. David Childers, CEO of Keeping Current Matters, we together discovered a lot of this data and did some big data research projects, and
Nice.
and I love what he says. He says, look, there's no good news or bad news. There's just the news, as long as we're
Mm.
being truthful. And so I'm just going to present some data, and I think most people are going to look at it and go, "Wow, there's an opportunity." And of course, there's going to be a handful of people that are going to find the reason why this is not an opportunity. But I'm just here to present some facts and some real data that we've uncovered. But optimistically, I'm looking at it going, this is the greatest opportunity that people have in 2025, and it's happening next week, right? And
Let's go.
it's a Q1 opportunity that will create momentum through the whole year for people.
What is it, man? What is this Q1 opportunity, man? Come on.
All
Let's
right.
go.
So now for people who don't know, RedX, we've been around for 22 years, and we started in the industry by helping people work expired listings. And in 2003, that was a crazy thing to be able to go out and automate the process of finding a phone number. That process is more common now, skip tracing and finding phone numbers, but we've adapted also in this opportunity to help people work high intent listings like expired listings um, over 22 years. But expired listings have kind of not been the main focus for a lot of agents in the last several years. One, because of just the volume of expired listings and off-market listings. The other thing is, before we get started, we're going to talk about expireds to not give it away. We're going to talk about expireds and give you some data. I want people to not tune out because they think that expireds means cold calling.
Exactly. And that's another thing. You have not heard expires like this because that's another thing. As soon as you drop a word like FISBOs or expires, or they have their, they associate meaning to it. So give this a fresh slate. All right,
Yep.
guys, erase your memory. This is going to be things that just press Control Alt Delete. Let's go.
Yep. All right. So we started out by looking at some real data from 2024. And then we're going to use that data, and we're going to give you some predictions of what 2025 looks like. So here's the real numbers. In 2024, so 1 year ago, almost a year ago, from January 1st until January 7th, there were 129,686 properties that came off of the market. Now, expired, canceled, and withdrawn is in that group. So I'm giving you numbers of expired, canceled, withdrawn. I'll separate those into just expireds as well. But in the first week of January, and everybody knows this, it's a huge time where properties come off the market because they write their contracts to expire on the 31st. So Jan 1, all of a sudden, all of these properties come off the market.
Yep.
129,000. Here's what happened in 2024 to those properties. 51% of them ended up relisting.
51%.
Yep. And the average time it took to relist, well, just know this, because too many numbers people can't write down, and I want them to get the opportunity more than the specifics of the numbers. The majority of those, the vast majority of them, relisted within Q1, right? So this is a Q1. Think of a Q1 opportunity here. 51% of them ended up relisting in Q1, and 39,000 of them ended up selling. Now, let me put this into terms that people kind of understand. That was $12 billion in sales volume,
Would there be
or around $360 million in listing commissions earned from the properties that went off the market in the first week of January. Now, we are up 15 to 19% in inventory going into 2025. Our predictions are showing of the properties that are going to come off of the market, we're between 5 and 15%, right? Increase over 2023. That's because our inventory has gone way up. So the amount of properties anticipated to come off of the market in the first week of January represent $415 million in listing commission. And that's based on 2024 numbers. That's based on 51% of them going to relist, right? But what happened even this week, right? Feds lowered the interest rates a little bit more, right?
Yep.
There's a little bit more optimism. The elections are over, and regardless of where you wanted that election to go, people are now deciding, okay, we're going to move on with our life. We've taken our real estate goals and decisions off pause while we waited for the election. So there's so much optimism that these are conservative numbers to say that only 51% would relist. Because what we're seeing right now in Q4 of 2024 For expired listings, you're closer to 70% that are relisting,
Mm,
right? So
wow.
so let's just be conservative and say there's $415 million in commissions for the properties that are going to go off of the market in the first week of January. And that is a massive, massive amount of commissions. And the question is do people want a piece of that pie?
Do they? But as I'm hearing that though, right? I'm sure there's agents out there saying, "Well, I thought you couldn't do expireds anymore, though. All that sounds great. It sounds amazing. Oh my gosh, that's great. I want a piece of that pie." But with the whole right TCPA and all that stuff going on, I just
Yep.
can't do it anymore. What do you got to say about that?
Well, I have a lot to say about that. We probably don't have 2 hours to go over it all, so I'll try to I'll try to be brief. Is yes, there are new TCPA laws going into effect. If people don't know, TCPA is the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. It was a law that went into place in the early 90s, 1991, that was trying to prevent these robo dialers and robocallers that were doing predictive and sequential dialing, meaning they would have a computer that would go dial, you know, your 555-555-0001 0002 sequentially, meaning they're blasting calls out to everybody, trying to get a connection, and then transferring that to a rep. We all know this. There's the delay, there's the beep, there's the, oh my gosh, it's a telemarketer, and
Yeah.
the people they're calling. So they put in these laws to try to prevent those unsolicited calls into place. Now, there's new things going into effect that are part of the TCPA in 2025. And part of that is new laws around primarily around one-to-one consent, meaning a lead generation company can no longer sell a single lead to multiple people.
Mm.
So you think about some of the big portals and how much they charge. Well, they were selling that lead to three, four,
A
five
ton of people.
different
Yeah.
agents, right? And then you
Yeah.
fought for it, and everybody's bombarding that lead to try to get in touch with them. And and you look at what some of the portals have done, even in 2023. What are they moving to? They're moving to um, Flex. They're moving to these things where they're only going to sell that lead they've generated to one person. But so that's primarily what the new laws are about. There's also laws around who you can call using technology, using an automated telephone dialing system, right? All of these laws are getting people really freaked out. And there's a lot of lead gen companies that are out there going, oh, now you can't work expireds. Come pay a lot of money for the leads that we can generate for you. And they're trying to create there's just some fear mongering going on. But the reality is that what RedX does, or what expireds are, let's say you're not using RedX and you just go to your MLS and you pull the list of expireds, you go to your county records, you try to find the owner and their phone number. You have a list of phone numbers here. Well, there's always been laws that prevent you from calling certain people, like those that are on the do not call registry. We don't recommend that you risk your business and you break the law to do that. But does that change what an expired listing is? Did that change that 70% are going to relist and
Yeah.
30% with the new agent? No. So you have to adapt your marketing strategies to go after those people. There are still people that you can call on the telephone. We still think that's the greatest way to go after any list, within the constraints you now have. And that does make it harder. It used to be I could make 100 dials and talk to 20 people. And now maybe you make $100 and you talk to 7 people because there's less of the phone numbers that you can dial. Does that mean you should never pick up the phone?
Right.
No. And one more anecdote there is, when Facebook first started, I remember Facebook, when they first started doing their targeted ads, I could upload a single person. I could upload Andy into Facebook and I could create an ad and I could target you, Andy, as a single person with my ad. Well, they started to get away from that more and more and more. Well, does that mean I shouldn't go after Facebook anymore? you know.
Exactly.
You just adapt. You adapt your model. So I don't know. That wasn't the topic of our conversation. I just want people to understand that there's still so many opportunities to go after these lists,
Absolutely.
high intent leads, that you could do that. That's why our platform has postcards and it has social media connections, so you could do social
Correct.
media ads to go after them. For crying out loud, we do a survey every year. 61% of all agents that make over $250,000 a year still go out and knock on doors.
Door knocking. Yeah. Door. Yeah.
So there is opportunity. So get out of your head the calls. You can be compliant and still use the telephone. You can be compliant and still use technology, right? Not every
Absolutely.
dining system is an ATDS as defined by FCC. So there's all kinds of things you should do. But more than anything, I want people to understand that expired listings is a huge opportunity. And I want to tell you a few other statistics that we discovered of why. Um, is the probability of an expired listing or any home that goes off the market, if they relist with a new agent, it's a 38% increase in probability that that home will sell than if they list with.
Mm, I love that.
If people understood that, Andy, if
Wow.
agents understood that,
New agent, right?
new
New
agent
agent, their chances of selling the property goes up
by a lot,
38%.
38%
That's
increase in probability.
that
Yep.
is great because how great does that feel, listeners? As you're an agent calling and you feel guilty. Some of them feel guilty, like, oh no, what if they're with another agent? I don't know. But it's like, wait a minute. I'm actually going to provide a service to them and increase my chances of helping them out. And now you have data behind that, right? Of like, wow,
Well, imagine knocking on the door, and we have charts that people can get. I think we're going to give those charts to you, Andy, and you can give those out to people. That if you
absolutely.
go knock on a door and somebody says, "Wow, you're like the 10th agent that's tried to call me," and you go, "Yeah, the reason is because if you relist with a new agent, your probability of selling is almost 40% higher."
Oh,
Of
you
course,
just
we're
gave a nasty objection handle right
right.
there, Curtis.
Right. So here's some other information about that. Um, This is so much easier with a chart. So I'm going to try to talk through this. If Let me give you some stats. If a property relists with the same agent, if they relist with the same agent at the same price it went off the market, the average days to get it sold was 53 after they relisted.
Okay.
But if they relisted with a new agent at the same price, the average days to get it sold was only 44.
What?
Now, it gets even better. If I relist with the same agent with a lower price, the average days to get that property sold was 40. But everybody should
All
write
right.
this down.
Which I
If
am.
if you relist with a new agent at a lower price than what it went off the market with, your average days to get it sold was 19.
Wow.
40 versus 19.
My
Now here's
gosh.
I'm going to talk about that, then I'm going to give you one more stat. But the reason that if we just think about this logically, you go, yeah, the same agent, same price. Typically, we see the same agent relist. It's the same photography. It's the same property description, right? And
Hmm.
they have the same pool of sphere of influence that's
Yeah,
looking
marketing methods and all that, right?
for sale. This
Yeah.
isn't like some secret thing. You go, oh, well, a new agent has a different sphere of influence that they're marketing their listings to, right? They're typically well, they should never use the photography from the previous agent because that's copyrighted. So it's new photography. They're going to write a new property description, and all of these things matter, right? It's like why marketers do A/B tests. You're going to track different people based on the words that you use and the pictures that you use. So a new agent can do that. But here's a stat that's really crazy, and I'm going to explain it. If you relist with the same agent and increase the price of what it went off the market at, Your average days on market are only 36 days. And if you relist with a new agent and raise the price, your average days on market are only 15. Now, this doesn't mean you should raise the price. This means that you should know your market well enough to know if it's underpriced and you're marketing the property to the wrong buyers. Because in those instances where the property needs to be increased because of what's going on, the agents that know to do that, the probability of it selling faster and for more money is way higher when you raise the price versus lower it. Now, that's only about 15% of the properties. The rest needed a lower price, is probably why they went off the market or expired in the first place. But in 15 to 20% of the time, that property should be increased and is probably marketing to the wrong audience. The other thing people need to consider is they just lowered interest rates again. It will take 30 to 45 days before mortgage rates start to catch up on that. But remember, this is a Q1 opportunity. So you can look at what interest rates were 6 months ago when they first listed the property, right? And your exposure to a new listing in the first day, week, couple of weeks that it goes on market is your greatest opportunity for exposure, right? Well, if interest rates are down 0.5% between 6 months ago and now, and I don't know what the real numbers are. You'd have to look you look when you're doing the listing, but this is something you should do to prepare for your listing presentation, is look at what interest rates were when they first listed, and now look at interest rates, what they are now, because you might have a totally different buying demographic based on
Correct.
affordability, right?
Yep.
So you get all of this new exposure, and that's why raising the price matters, because if interest rates are different, you're presenting to a different group of people who are looking to upgrade. And if interest rates are lower and you lower the price, you open up the amount of people who are looking at that property.
Yep.
Does that make
And,
sense?
yep. And mortgage rates, studies are showing more and more that in Q1 are going to drop 6% in Q1. You're seeing that,
Yeah, and if we get below 6, that'll open up a whole different optimism for your buyers out there, which is going to be really fantastic. So yeah, there's just such opportunity. There's such opportunity in these expired and off-market listings that happen in the
oh,
first week of January.
big time. And historically here, I'm looking at these numbers, which is pretty cool, is home sales have risen 9 out of the 11 years following a presidential election. So you're seeing what we were just saying. It's showing the proof in the pudding, right? Of home sale prices rising, interest rates dropping, and then we're seeing showtime rates also. I saw this number as well, where showtime rates are at a very high as well the past 2 years, even with the interest rates being at 7% and above, that the showing rates in November of 2024 have surpassed the level seen in 2022 and in 23.
Yep.
So you're seeing people interested in seeing properties, but they're just not pulling the trigger, obviously. But the demand is there. So it's like a perfect storm about to happen, right? That interest rate's about to drop, price is about to increase some as well, right? And the demand, the floodgates, new presidential election, more optimism about the economy. Boom. It's a beautiful little trifecta there as to what's happening.
Yep.
So good.
It's crazy in the tech world. AI has taken everything by storm, and it should. I think it's changing the way we live our life, and we
As
could
we
do
speak. Oh,
a podcast, on that.
we
Um,
should.
but there's a lot of people out there that are trying to create these lists of predicted, prediction. Like, hey, here's the people who are going to relist, go after them. But there's not a predictive model on the planet that can predict higher than 70%, which is your expired listings. Or even
Mm,
FISBOs, which is, half of those people will end up listing with an agent. 40% of vacant rentals end up listing their home for sale with an agent, right?
Yeah.
These are high intent listings that are
Yeah.
up for grabs, but you've just got to go out and get after it.
That's it. And AJ, listen to that. A 70% of these properties have expireds you have an opportunity for, right? And yes, the connection rates may not be there. That's another thing I want to make sure agents, if it like Curtis said, if it takes you 100 phone calls to have 7 good conversations or whatever it is, and the numbers are less, just understand that's part of our business, right? Because you hear that a lot. Well, a lot of people are not picking up and this and that. Well, if before it took you 100 calls to make, now it's going to take us 200 calls to make, 300 calls to make, doesn't change the fact that we're still going to land at some really positive numbers to keep doing it. So we just got to kind of reevaluate the expectations as to what good numbers are.
Yeah, and to incorporate other marketing means, right? All of the new TCPA laws around lead generation companies, but Redx provides you a list of prospects that you need to go lead generate with. So the opportunity is for you to take control of your own lead generation in your own business, because the lead generation companies, well, what do you think is going to happen now that they can't sell that one lead to several people? What's going to happen to the price of the leads they do generate? They're going to skyrocket. We've already seen that, right? What are some people charging? 40% of the commission for
Wow.
that, right?
For
For
that
that
lead,
lead.
yeah.
And so for you to take control of your own lead generation, not just through phone calls of those that you are able and compliantly calling, but postcards and social media advertising and door knocking and
Yes.
all of these other things that you can do to incorporate into your marketing strategy to go after them. In the same study where we see high producing agents door knock, we also see that they average 3 methods of going after and generating leads. So it's not just calling, but they might be calling, but they're also doing postcards or mailers or door knocking or hanging flyers on the doors, or they're doing multiple things to go after that list of high intent sellers, not just calling.
Absolutely. And I even heard some of our high performing students and teams, strategy for them is all the expireds that are out there, they're visiting those expireds
Mhm.
in person. Like they'll select a specific area on expireds, right? Where they're going to focus on, even for sale by owners. And they go there face to face.
Yep.
And because they're getting a lot of calls, but they're not getting a lot of door knocks,
Well,
right?
when we follow up our surveys with individual interviews and we ask high producing agents, wait, you still knock on doors? You're making 250 grand a year. What do
Yeah.
you do? We go, nobody else is doing it. And
Yep.
and people are nicer. They're not going to hang up on me. They're
They
not,
are nicer. They
and
really are.
they're visualizing. They're saying, look, if there's only 10 expired listings that I really want to list because they're ideal for my expertise and price range and what I want, go knock on the door.
Correct.
You got to go generate the lead and get consent, which is what all these new laws are about, is permission-based marketing. They want people to say, yes, I'm okay with you reaching out to me, Andy. And what better way to do that than go knock on their door?
Correct. And what
So
better way to show them that you're auditioning for the privilege to be their agent? Like, man, this person is willing to knock on my door. The courage, the confidence, the grit that this person has, man, knocking on my door. Other agents are not knocking on my door. So you're also auditioning for the job, for the privilege of serving them. And they want an agent that's a go-getter. And that's one thing. And I'm telling you guys, people are nicer in person. If you're listening to this, you're saying, Andy, no, door knocking is so crazy. No, people are much more pleasant in person. They're not as mean as you think they are. It's amazing. You get your cardio in, right? You get your steps in. You can bring your family. I brought my nephews and nieces with me when I go door knocking. People take their animals with them or whatever. You can make it as fun as possible. We talk about making a habit form if you have fun involved in the process. And that can be a way for you to spend some family time, also get some steps in and get some good face to face time
yeah,
with these expireds.
yeah, I think
And
it's great.
so, yeah. And so, speaking of fun, I think let's also talk about teams right
Yes.
now,
Yep.
Curtis, because I think we're shifting away from, and I'm guilty of this, of the Zoom world we've been in since COVID. And I believe now more than ever, agents are craving more of a community,
Yep.
bonding with one another, also sharing overhead, reducing their overhead, having some accountability, having fun in the business. Because I think sometimes as an agent, it can get lonely, it can get boring, it can get redundant. Prospecting can suck, right? It gets like, oh, I get it, guys. And we're not here to tell you it's awesome. That's why we have a business teaching prospecting because we understand of the problems that it can, how boring it can be and how difficult it can be to build that habit. But now with teams, and I would like for you to shed some light on what Red X has done to help teams out. Because if you've ever thought about building a team, joining a team, or you're struggling at scaling in your current team, I'm super excited to talk about this because we're personally going to use it. It's a focus that I'm working on myself, guys, as we're building our team for 2025. We're growing our team, and that's going to be our focus. We're going to put Red X at the center of it. You and I were talking about it offline, Curtis, before we got on about how we're going to do so, but kind of give our listeners a little intro as to what Red X is doing with teams and the new product you guys have and
For
why.
sure. Well, and let me get some history or context on this is uh, in the industry, what's happened is again, more and more people are still there's still a ton of people getting into the industry, right?
Yeah.
And they're getting into the industry under a different lens than they did 10 years ago, 12 years ago. 10 years ago, you get in the industry and you'd go, okay, well, now I'm going to go send a letter to my sphere of influence. I'm going to start meeting with people. I'm going to start trying to work referrals and do that. There's just not enough transactions right now. People know less people that are transacting than ever before. And so
Yeah.
what's happening is people are getting into the industry and they're going on all of these forums, and you can get on any of the big real estate Facebook forums and go look for comments where people say, I'm a new agent, what do I do? And everyone tells them, go join a team.
Mm.
Because you don't have money to go buy leads or generate leads. So go join a team so that they can do that for you, which was ideal, except last year, when you look at 80% of the teams, the team leader is still in production, meaning
Mm.
the team leader's production is what's paying for the leads for the rest of the team leaders. And that's great. That's where a team usually has to start, right? The the challenge for team leaders is that while they're still trying to maintain their production, they have team members that are trying to look to the team for the help to increase their own personal production. And in a recent survey, most team leaders had less than 3 hours a week to devote to their team, to the agents on their team.
Oh, wow.
Less than 3 hours to devote to them to help them increase their own personal production. So we decided to help team leaders with this challenge. And we turned our platform into a team platform that has everything a team needs, which is everything from the prospects to all of the methods that they can generate the leads to get the listings and increase their personal production. And just a side note, that's been our business for 22 years, is helping individual agents increase their personal production. And so what
Mm.
we've done with the team model is we take the team and we create the accountability and the visibility for the team leader, but we take it upon ourselves to do a lot of the training to the team, right? We do a lot of that technical training, the prospecting training, and then we refer them to guys like you, Andy, who can really take their prospecting to the next level of what they can
Yes.
do. So the team leader can have a platform at a very inexpensive cost to allow their team members to empower them to start to increase their own personal production without taking away from the team leader's personal production. And
Yeah.
so we got a little crazy with that with our introductory price and our end of
And the
year
pricing
is
is
going on right
wild.
now.
Yeah.
Is that a team leader can get a team for 5 seats that includes all of the data, not just the expireds and the off-market listings, but all of the for sale by owners, all of the pre-foreclosure data, all of the vacant rentals in their marketplace, all of the neighborhood searching that they can handle. and we put everything in there. We give them smart numbers, we give them the dialing technology, and we do that for just $5.99.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so they can have that. We also include all of our boot camps and our training in that. So they're going to learn the tech, they're going to learn how to use it, they're going to learn how to prospect with it. And then we give them material like I know Andy, even in our private Facebook group, you're very active in there in helping people to learn how to prospect and create good habits on prospecting so that they can succeed. So um, yeah, I mean that's what we're doing. We have our end of year promotion going on right now, and and that's going to go into the first week because we want people to be able to take advantage of this huge opportunity in Q1 of 2025.
That's it. And guys, think about that. And you're getting all the packages, right? And if you break that down, what 599, that's about over $100 per line right there.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic to do. And so if you ever thought about joining a team, creating a team, or scaling your team, this is the time. And if you guys want to learn more about it, just go to habitguys.com/RedX 2025. That's habitguys.com/RedX 2025. And just go ahead and click and book a call with the RedX team because I'm hearing it. I'm telling you, 90% of the people I talk to, they want the outcome of a team. But you just heard Curtis. A lot of teams suffer because the team lead is so stuck in their own production, or then other agents don't know how to pass leads across to one another. How do you manage all these leads? How do you create some accountability and team visibility? Well, RedX has done that for you, where it creates it super easy to allocate leads, to filter leads, to see who's calling who. It's an amazing system. And actually, with Habit Guys, you can use our follow-up system with RedX as well. So you can use all of their foldering system within RedX and all, so you know when you're calling them. So it's all in one. So if you guys want to learn more about that, go to habitguys.com/RedX 2025 and book a call there with RedX to see if it's a good fit for you and your team and your future team, because that's where it's headed, because the expenses get dropped. It's more exciting. You're calling is you can go to the gym by yourself, but going to the gym with other people, it's more exciting. It's fun. It's also more accountable because, hey, Curtis, you and I have pumped iron together, and I push harder when other people are watching. It just happens. You prospect more when I can see your data, when you can see my data, and at the end of the day, we can see who's doing what. We can see how many calls you've made, how many conversations you've had, how many voicemails you dropped. So think about that. RedX has created this ecosystem, this team ecosystem that now you can just do. So it's awesome. Super cool. And that's it, man. I think that's pretty much anything else that we didn't leave uncovered there, Curtis, that we're talking about.
No, I think we've done a tremendous amount of interviews of high producing agents, and we've broken down how they work at the expireds into an ebook that we're gonna give away to everybody.
Correct. So be on the
So
lookout for that link. Yep.
be on the lookout for that link as well. Otherwise, look, I don't want to be one of those guys that tries to create false scarcity um,
Yeah.
for people to do something. The opportunity spans more than just the first week in January. But by far, your greatest opportunity to connect with people and be the first agent that they think about, so that all of your other marketing starts to, drip on them, and they start to know, okay, I know who Andy Rosas is. He talked to me. Now I see his stuff on social media. I'm getting his postcards. The guy knocked on my door. Your greatest opportunity starts next week on January 1st. And so your greatest opportunity to get after it is now.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And before we go, a couple of things would be, if you want a training, guys, where you're saying, like, man, Curtis told me to make these calls, go after expireds, and I just want to make sure I have the right habits to do it. I want to stop procrastinating. We have a training the first week of January, absolutely free, to help you create the habit of taking action so you can actually do what Curtis is telling you to do and make these calls. If you want to learn how to stop procrastinating, join our free masterclass. Just go to habitguys.com/2025. Go to habitguys.com/2025 and learn the habits you need for 2025 to make it happen. Because remember, new year, new you doesn't exist if you have the same old habits from 2024 going into 2025, right? We all know that already. And second thing is, Curtis, how do people stay in touch with you if they want to
Oh,
learn more?
yeah, heck yeah. So go follow us on Instagram. The Redx, REDX is our Instagram handle. You could call us at 1-800-731-7339. You can talk to anybody on the sales team. They'll do a screen share. They'll show you the team accounts. If you're not quite ready to build a team, we have some fantastic promotions for individual agents right now to help you get going. And yeah, and redx.com, redx.com.
I love it. And your team is super helpful, guys. They handhold you throughout the whole process. So if you're not techie, you get scared when you hear words like dialer and all these different things. Don't worry about it. It's all, I was intimidated by it as well years ago. And you just learn it step by step by step. And their team will definitely hold you up for that. So, well, Curtis, man, thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks,
Appreciate you.
Andy. Appreciate your
All righty,
time.
guys. All right. No problem. All righty, guys. Take care and have a good one. And we'll talk to you on the next podcast.